Howdy folks, it is a Tuesday morning. I'm about to get in iRacing, check out this week's sessions and what tracks are available. It's last week of season one. But before I do that, I've been curious about some of the different graphical settings in VR. I have an AKX, you can probably see it right here behind me hanging on the wall. And I've had it for several years and it's been good and reliable. Years ago I used to run 90 frames per second, and it worked just fine. But then over years, different settings, iRacing updates, different graphical cards, and things like that, things have kind of gotten slow. So I've been running at 75. But anyways, yeah, I've been wanting to play around with the different settings, see exactly what they do, because it's kind of confusing. You have your Nvidia settings, you have your Pimax settings, you have either OpenXR or SteamVR setting. Then there's iRacing settings themselves. So I want to kind of see which has the biggest impact on things and try to find a decent balance between graphical resolution, making it really look good in VR without weird artifacts and anti-aliasing stuff, and frames per second. And I'm not that big on frames per second. 75 runs fine for me as long as it doesn't stutter. Like I said, I can run this at 90, but sometimes the scenes will kind of move along like that in certain locations, certain tracks, and things like that. So my main goal is to get the smoothest frame rate, even whether it's at 75, with a decent graphical quality where I'm still immersed and I feel the benefits of having VR. My system in the background right here is currently a 3070 Ti and a 7800 X3D processor on an AMD set. It's decent mid-range system. If I run this on my ultra-wide screen, yeah, I can do 100 plus frames per second, so it's no problem keeping up with iRacing. But VR is a completely different animal. Resolutions are completely different, as we'll see here in a little bit. So yeah, if you have anything to add, any tips for me, leave them down below in comment. But this is me just trying to experiment with the different settings and trying to find a decent balance. So the first thing we're going to look at is the Nvidia control panel. I pretty much run all of the default settings. There's not too much that changes there. I go with default, and about the only thing I change is the multi-frame sampled AA is turned on. That's because iRacing really is pushing MFAA. The FXAA and what's the other one? The SMAA seem to be going away. And so in iRacing, I run MFAA in 2x or 4x mode, depending again what the performance is. The other change I make down here is a shader cache size. So I cache some of that, and so this default, I have plenty of memory, and so I set that at 100 gig. Everything else is the default settings. You can kind of see, I'll scroll through here slowly, and there's not much else going on through here. Sometimes I play around with the low latency mode. It doesn't seem to make too big of a difference. So anyways, that's the Nvidia control panel. Again, if there's any suggestions you have, I run power management mode in normal. Some other places you see will have you running it in maximum, but the only thing that does is it keeps your GPU running at 100% all the time, even if you're not using it. So it could overheat, it wastes power. Normal is perfectly fine. I don't have an issue with that. There's also some things I played around with is the negative load bias, which by default is allowed. And again, that's a setting that is configured in iRacing. All right, next we're going to look into some of the Pimax settings that are available in the Pimax software. The AKX, main reason I got it was the big field of view. It's fantastic, very immersive. Bought it like 4 or 5 years ago. It's the first gen model. I think it's the 2075. Later on, they came out with the 2076. There's some issues, I think, with AMD cards, but that's why I always run Nvidia cards. Seems to be more compatible with everything else. But yeah, so let's take a look at the settings in here. And you can see my whole setup right there. I've got 4 base stations in here, and everything's connected and being tracked and so on. So yeah, the first things right here are the refresh rates. We have 75 and 90 hertz. 60 starts getting a little bit too stuttery. You start getting nauseous and stuff like that. 75 is perfectly fine for me. 90 would be better. But most of the time when I run 90, I end up getting frame rates in the 80s. And again, we start getting that stuttering scenery issue. So 75 is fine, but we'll try it at 90 later on and see how that goes. And you can kind of see the difference. Then when we, and of course, yeah, you use native panel mode. I'm not going to upscale or anything like that. When we get into games, we have quite a few options. First is the field of view. I typically use normal. I'm not sure, can't remember what exactly that resolves to, about 140 degrees or something like that. It's not too bad. Uh, Typical headsets nowadays that have 100 degrees field of view, it's somewhere in between small and potato. Uh, Large is really nice. I've run large in the past. Again, you have to really turn down your graphic quality. And the main benefit for large is you get to see some things out of your peripheral view. It's not very clear, but when you're iRacing or something like that, it's really good seeing cars come up alongside you and when you're around corners and stuff like that. So you don't really have to turn your head as much. You can kind of concentrate on looking in turns and you can still see cars out of the corner of your eye. They're blurry, but you can tell whether something is there or not. But normal is pretty nice. And we'll try some of these different field of views here in a second and see what the difference is in the pixel count. We'll go to SteamVR and take a look at what it actually renders as. The other one is the render quality. I typically do high, which tries to do the native 1:1 ratio. There's also medium low. And if you go and customize, you kind of see it. High is a 1. And then if we go to medium, is 0.75. And low ends up being like half the possible resolution. And again, we'll look at what those are. Then we have fixed foveated rendering. This is something that popped up on Pimax a couple years ago when I first got this. It was not working, was not available. But we have the Pimax central priority rendering. And what that does is it keeps the center of the screen nice and sharp and starts pixelating things out to the sides. So your mirrors start getting a little bit blocky unless you look at it. So if you take your headset and you look to your mirrors will be perfectly clear and sharp. No issue at all. It's just again your peripheral vision, which is basically how your human vision works. I mean, when you look at something, it's nice and clear. Things out at the side of your vision are blurred. So it kind of follows the same model. So I don't really care if things outside my vision are blurry. You can control that with a preference right here, performance, balance, or quality. And that controls how big the clear part of your headset is. And so if you quality, you're going to have a bigger clear circle. Performance is going to be smaller, clear circle, everything else being pixelated. And the big impact on that is if you're not moving your head around a lot, which is not nice having a big field of view, you don't have to, and you're using your eyes to look around. Um, in the quality, you have a bigger clear circle, so you can just use your eyes to look around and read signs on the side of the road without having to move your headset, because sometimes you want to read your braking markers and your distance markers and things like that. And on performance, sometimes you have to move your head a little bit in order to have a clear a clear picture of the sign, so you can see your 300 meters, 200 meters, 100 meter signs and things like that. Other stuff, parallel projection, don't ever use that. The frame rate goes to crap. It's needed for certain games that aren't really compatible with VR, with the Pimax split lenses. And yeah, unless you need it, don't leave it or don't turn it on. Smart smoothing, I played around with that. And most of the time, in iRacing, you'll be going down track and everything's fine. Your rendering bar is normal and you get decent frames. But then when you get to a section where it gets complicated, all of a sudden your render bar goes to red, your FPS goes down in the 30s and stuff like that. And it does give you a smooth visual quality, but the lag is really bad. So yeah, don't use smart smoothing. I think that's kind of the main piece. So let's take a look at what this here gives us. We'll go normal and high, and then we'll try some of these other settings and show you exactly what the resolution is that we get on each one of these. So we'll start SteamVR. And we're on a Pimax setting of normal field of view with the high render quality. We can go into Steam, look at the settings, and go to the video, and you can see the normal high gives us a resolution of 3716 by 3160. So this is kind of the equivalent of a 4K TV monitor. So if you want to do 4K gaming, you probably need a really good graphics card and processor that can handle 4K in order to run it at this mode. Unless again you turn down settings, which we'll do because I usually end up running at this setting and with things turned down. But we'll find out today. I might end up changing my mind. Next, let's look at the medium render quality. So we're still at normal. We're going to change it to medium. Apply this. Then we're going to start SteamVR again. Go into the settings, video, and now we're down to 2788 times 2368. So significant reduction in the resolution. And if you want to relate this to regular monitor gaming, this would be like a 1440 equivalent or something like that. And with Pimax set to normal and low render quality, which was the 0.5 rendering, half rendering, Steam gives us a resolution of 1860 by 1580, so significantly smaller, and even low-end graphics cards can handle this. Problem with this, the graphics quality won't be that good. So, but we'll go into iRacing here in a little bit and try out some of these different resolutions. And when we reduce the field of view in Pimax, you can see right here now we're at small and we're still at low render quality. The horizontal resolution decreased quite a bit. The vertical is still the same at 1580, but the horizontal is reduced. So the field of view change will reduce the horizontal resolution, and the render quality will change both of them. And with the same small field of view, but the render quality getting bumped up to medium, we end up with a resolution of 2280 and 2368. So that bumped up a little bit, but again, the horizontal field of view resolution is smaller than what it was with the normal field of view. With the small field of view, but the high render quality, the 1:1, we end up with a resolution of 3040 by 3160. All right, so now let's take a look at some of the large field of view resolutions. So this here is the largest setting that Pimax will do. It is large field of view with the high render quality, the 1:1. And you can set the render quality higher. You can super sample it, but why? So anyways, yeah, I'm at large and high. We have 4,996 by 3160. So that's quite a few pixels that the CPU and the graphics card will have to render. So if you got the horsepower, go for it. If you got one of the new 5090s and a fire extinguisher handy, hey, this is what you probably should be running. And with the large field of view, but medium render quality, the 0.75 render quality, we end up with 3748 by 2368. And finally, with a large field of view, but the low render quality, we end up with a resolution of 2496 by 1580. And this setting would be used if you absolutely have to have your wide field of view, but you're not too worried about the quality of it, if you don't care if it's pixelated or something like that. So this kind of covers all the different resolutions with the different field of views and render quality combinations. I'm not going to get into potato because it's kind of useless. The whole reason you bought a Pimax is for the field of view. So potato, I'm not feeling that. And here's a table that summarizes the different settings that we just covered. As you can see, the large high is a huge demand, and something like a large medium is about the same as a small high. So you use this table, screenshot it, whatever, and use this kind of as a reference to set your graphics levels in Pimax based on what your hardware can handle. Next, let's start looking at iRacing and seeing some FPS values and performance. Before you do anything, go into your username documents iRacing folder and you should have a set of files for your monitor, for your VR, and for your XR. I'm going to be using XR. Make sure you have a copy of it in failback. I've had issues where I've made some changes to the anti-aliasing, set that to none, and iRacing will no longer start. So you have to start from scratch. So make a copy of this stuff, but we're going to start with a fresh copy. So I'm going to erase my OpenXR, and so when I start iRacing, we'll start from a fresh sheet. I'm going to use a BMW M2 car that got introduced this season. I typically do the open cars, Formula cars or the M2, because in VR, I just like having sky and scenery and stuff like that. I don't like looking at the inside of a car much in a VR headset. But I did race this because the Apex List League is using this car for the Tuesday night races. And when I first started using it, I did notice that the performance, the graphical performance cut off really, really bad. I guess it's a hard car to render with the mirrors and everything else. So I'm going to stick with this car. It's brand new, latest design, should have all the details. Probably one of the more difficult cars in iRacing to render, I guess. And also Long Beach, I did a quick search on who has the harder tracks to render, and quite a few people mentioned Long Beach. So I'm going to stick with that. I'm also going to do this in the rain, and I'm not going to do nighttime. Nighttime makes it even worse, but it doesn't really look good on screen for this video. So I'm going to stick with daytime, but I am going to do 100% chance of rain, so we have all the graphics issues with the rain droplets and stuff like that. And I am going to run this in OpenXR. A while ago, we only used SteamVR in order to look at the resolutions. There really isn't a decent tool, like FPS VR or something like that. OpenXR used to be able to tell you FPS and things like that. But yeah, we're going to use OpenXR and look at the FPS values, the render bar, and kind of my overall opinion on how the screen is reacting with the actual FPS. Is it stuttering and stuff like that? So let's jump right in here. We are in Pimax setting. Let me see what I have. We're still in normal and high, and this is kind of my default that I've been running in. So we have this resolution. You look at the sheet, how many pixels it uses and everything. So, all right, let's jump in. Since I erased the OpenXR INI file, iRacing will automatically come up with the auto configure. So we're going to run this, and we're going to start from these settings that iRacing recommends. And this is what iRacing came up with. Quite a few things in there are going to be way too high. Yeah, cars, high details. We don't need two pass trees. We don't need high quality trees. High detail headlights and mirrors and things like that. We don't need HDR. I have an HDR monitor, but in the headset it doesn't matter. Ultra detail shader quality, things like that. So we're going to be turning some of these things off. But first, let's go into the car and see what kind of frames we get. All right, so here we are in the car. This is the normal high setting, doing 11 million pixels, and we're getting 50 frames per second, and all the bars are maxed out, everything's red. And I drove this a little bit, and yeah, it stutters terribly. So the iRacing settings are definitely way too high quality than the hardware can handle right now. So let's go back in there and make some changes. All right, so yeah, here we are back in the options. Yeah, let's start turning some of these things off. I don't really care about the trees, so both of those are getting turned off. I don't care about having high detail in that. Virtual mirror is fine. Motion blur is off. I don't need HDR. Ultra detail, I think I'm just perfectly fine with high detail, so I'm turning that off. Night shadow maps, that's usually another big one that causes issues. Right now we'll stick with the 4x sampling, and let me see, particles, let's see what kind of change this here alone made. We'll probably also play around later on with the res scaling and some other things like that. So let's see where we are here. Okay, we're still at 50. Didn't make a lick of difference. It might be an issue with having to restart iRacing. So let me try that and see if we get anything higher. All right, still in normal high mode. After we restarted it, the graphics and some of the bars don't seem to be in the red all the time. We are getting a little bit more frames per second. We're up to 60 something, so the restart did have an impact. So let's go in there and reduce the quality of a couple more things. All right, so let's take a look at some of the items in the left-hand quality. Particles, I'm good with low detail on that. Objects, and the nice thing about iRacing, it tells you at the bottom what it does. So these are the trackside details. We can do low detail on that. Grandstands, let me see, I don't need that in high detail. The event, I kind of like seeing lots of stuff around there, but let's just see what low detail stuff on this. Pit objects, we'll go low. Cars, skies, and cloud. I'm not sure. I've seen before where the sky and cloud, if you have them low detail, they'll be kind of jerky. But while you're racing, you don't really notice it. You can see it on a replay. So we'll set that to low. What else? Oh yeah, object self-shadowing. I should have turned it off a while ago. So we have low detail, cars, high detail. We can probably leave that medium detail, not that big a deal. I've also heard that LOD can cause stutters because it's constantly having to redraw things in and out based on your frame rate. So we're going to turn both of these off, and frame rate is no limit. Port number of cars is fine. Full res is good. And next time around, we'll play with the MSAA because I think it usually runs a lot better with a 4X. And we'll also take a look at the simple, and those require a restart. So let's pop back out here. Is there anything else I see? Nope, that's about it. All right, let's see if this here does anything, and then we'll restart it. All right, a little bit better. We're up to 65 frames per second. All the bars are in the orange. No longer see any reds or anything like that. So next, let's do a restart and see if there any of these settings were impacted by that. All right, yeah, so no major difference. We're still in the mid 60s. Every once in a while, the bar will turn red, as you see. But restart, none of the options that we changed last time had an impact on requiring a restart. So let's see what else we can do in here. All right, so just for curiosity's sake, let's play around with the shader quality. Let's put it low. And yeah, you can see all kinds of options get turned off. Let's take a look at that and see how it affects our frame rate. All right, with the shader quality set to low, we're now hitting 70 frames per second. Whenever I'm not recording OBS, it was running low 70s, and some of the cards are turning gray. You can kind of see them blink on and off there. So the shader quality did make a big difference. Gave us about 8 or 9 FPS. There was a warning that came up saying that lots of graphical items in the rain aren't going to be displayed because using low shader quality turned off a whole bunch of options that are required for rain. Yeah, let me try this out here real quick, and we'll see what it looks like. Yeah, if I look off to the side, you can see the trees definitely kind of stuttering. Yep, not acceptable. There are also some options for the event and grandstand and stuff like that. Personally, I like the immersion. I like seeing people on the track. I don't want to be driving an empty track, so I usually leave those on even at low detail. But we'll play around with that later on and see if that makes a difference or not. But for now, yeah, low detail. It did make somewhat of a difference, but yeah, I want some rain details and things like that. So after this, let's go and play with some of the native Pimax resolution settings. We're still running normal high, which is 11 million pixels. So let's try normal medium, which is down to 6 million pixels, about half the resolution, and we'll see what the impact is on that. All right, I changed the Pimax settings to normal field of view, but with the medium render. So now we're only doing 6 million pixels instead of 11, about half the horsepower required. All the settings here are still the same. We're in high detail. We have all the same settings as last time. So let's take a look at what FPS that gives us. All right, and we're at 75, which is what we have Pimax set to. So now we're kind of running at max resolution of the Pimax settings. We can try 90, but first I'm going to take a quick drive and check out the stuttering and things like that. And by the way, if you haven't noticed, I do have the Vive DAS head strap on there. The Pimax one is just way too bulky. It's got a big, huge knob on the back, and if you're trying to sit back, it puts your head forward. So, highly recommend the Vive DAS head strap. All right, yeah, nice. 75. Looking sideways, everything looks smooth. Looking at the banners on the side, they're going by pretty decently. And we're staying at 75 even while OBS is recording. And again, take a look at these banners. Yeah, that's not bad at all. You can definitely race this. Let's do a couple of... Yeah, that corner usually stutters if you see the banners. And all these banners right here. Yeah, totally drivable. I like this. So, can't really tell the details with the resolution. If I look up there, you can kind of see the trees. You can look around. The fencing, raindrops on the windows look good. You can see the chain links in the fence. This here is not bad. You could definitely drive with this with the Pimax resolution scaling set to 75 and iRacing having everything set to the defaults, or well, minimum, but without any upscaling or anything like that. Oh yeah, so not bad. Pimax set to the normal medium gives you 6 million pixels, and so it seems like 6 million is doable with my hardware and iRacing with these settings. We might be able to play around with the samples, get a little bit better performance, and this is while OBS is recording, so I'm not complaining at all. And all the details and stuff like that, I still get people in the grandstands and things. I think I do. I think there's an option in the INI file actually where I need to force that during testing, and I'll go do that here in a second. Yeah, this isn't bad, but the other thing I want to show y'all is the resolution scaling right here. So this here is AMD FSR Ultra, and I've been using this quite a bit. And so even if you're at a higher resolution in Pimax, if you're at, for example, normal high with 11 million, you can set this even with an Nvidia card. This doesn't matter if it's AMD or Nvidia. This is just an upscaler. So you can set to one of these, and this will have a significant impact on your frame rate. Even if you're using monitors and you're on really low hardware, play around with this and try it out. Balance and quality are the ones I use quite often. And off in the distance, you can get a little bit of aliasing, where you get some stripes, some curbing. It has some odd patterns, some aliasing, and that's when you play around with the MSAA, whether you want to do 4x. There's also settings here for your sharpness. You can play around with that. I'll see if I got time and show you some of the differences on this here. But yeah, so let's go back to the normal high with the 11 million pixels, and we'll play around with the res scaling and see what that looks like. And Tom's Hardware has a pretty good article about the AMD FSR upscaling, what it does and things like that. So at ultra quality, you can see the resolution, what it uses as an input right here is this, and this is what you end up with. And then the quality, which is what I use most of the time, and that kind of explains why, because I end up with a 1440 type of setup. Quality is 1.5 times, balance is 1.7, performance basically doubles it. Goes from 1280 720, that's what it renders it at, and it outputs it at 1080. So these are the details if you're curious about how FSR works and what the actual resolutions and things are. And so that kind of explains, you can kind of look at this in addition to the settings I had for the Pimax, the different resolutions at different things. And yeah, there's lots of mixing and matching, but basically it comes down to, do you want to reduce the rendering of Pimax and then have iRacing rendered natively at the Pimax resolution, or do you want a big gigantic Pimax screen and have iRacing upscale it using this FSR? And these resolutions kind of explain why you end up with the jagged edges and the anti-aliasing kind of stuff. But yeah, Tom's Hardware reference, you can look up AMD FSR Fidelity. I'll try to put the link down below. And it's a pretty good article. Shows you what it does and more details and probably more things that you want to know about it. So anyways, that's the FSR. Again, if you have really weak hardware doing VR, you might not have a choice but to use this. But it looks like the best solution is to reduce the rendering if you can in your headset, if your headset has that ability. So one of the things I just noticed after the video was that I didn't have my cockpit mirrors on, and that will make a big difference in your frame rate, or it can make a big difference in your frame rate. So your options for that is right here. I need to turn on cockpit mirrors. I usually put them at 4. That covers most cars. They got one mirror on each side. You get the rear view mirror, and then sometimes I think you might have a dash, and I think that counts for it, like a rear view mirror in your dash. I don't use the higher detailing mirrors. I don't really care about the detail. I just want to know, hey, is there a car behind me or on the side? And that's about it. So anyways, so let me turn this on, and let's go in there and see what kind of impact that made. All right, looks like we're still getting about the same frames per second. So that had minimal impact on it, but again, something to be aware of. It could make a difference. All right, so now let's go back up to the high render quality. We're going to do normal high, and we're going to play around with the AMD FSR, the upscaling. The other thing I want to talk about are some of the changes in the INI file. Again, earlier we deleted it, so we came up with a brand new INI file that iRacing created. And there's a couple things I go in there and I usually change, and some of it's just personal preference, some I've been doing for years because I was told about it. So let's take a look at this here. The first one is visibility frame delay. This is number of frames to wait before retesting object visibility, 0 being no delay. So I set that to 0. I think it's usually like 5 or something like that. And this was something years ago that I read about. It could cause stutters or some lag, and to change it to 0. Again, I don't know the whole history of it. I probably need to do some more research, but this is one option that I usually do change. Then we have virtual mirror size right here. I like a small size mirror in VR. I don't really need a big gigantic thing overhead. The small mirror still gives me plenty of visibility. I usually use anywhere from a 50 to 100 field of view rear view mirror, depending on the car. If it has side mirrors and they have good visibility, I use a smaller mirror. And it might affect performance. I haven't tested. I'm not going to. It probably isn't too significant. I think the field of view, if anything, might have more of an impact because it has more stuff to draw and render. And the next item here is force visible when moved, and this is when you do your Alt K, and it brings or allows you to relocate all your iRacing overlays in VR. And so normally it only shows the ones that are currently in use when you hit Alt K for moving them around. So you set this to 1 and hit Alt K when you're in the VR, and then every single overlay becomes visible, and you can move them all around and kind of edit your layout of everything in VR. Then the other one is force crowd visible, and this is what I mentioned earlier. I like having crowds in the stands. It's more immersive. Driving around an empty track with no one watching you, I don't know, it's just kind of boring. So I usually set this to 1, and this will have an impact. But again, when you're racing, this comes true. When you're in a race, you're going to have crowds. So might as well test these settings, the same settings with the crowd being visible while you're doing your testing and your qualifying, and that way you can double check all your resolution. So yeah, especially when you're checking your frame rate and making changes to your graphics, make sure you set this one here so that it's going to be the same. You don't want to have everything worked out for practice or testing, and then go into the race and have all this extra stuff show up and your frame rate goes to crap. See anything else? Nope, and that's it. So those are the typical changes I make in the INI file. There's lots of other things you can play around with. You'll find other articles about VR tuning and things like that that talk about going in here and making various changes, but there's nothing really major that I've found. All right, Pimax is back to normal and high like we originally had that. And then let's fire up iRacing. All right, and we're back in the normal high setting with the, what is that, 11 million pixel setting. So right now, the res scaling is off. And let's see what kind of frame rate we get. We should be back, I think we were getting in the 50s or something earlier. 60s, all right. Upper 60s with no upscaling. And again, this is below our target of 75. We want to have a nice stable 75. I'm sure if I drove this right now, you can see the banner stuttering. So let's change this. And first, let's try out the Ultra, which has the least amount of impact. And we're going to have the sharpness level, let's go all the way from 5 to 0. Let's just try in the middle, go with the 3 and see where that takes us. And we still have MSA samples, we haven't messed with that. We're at 4x MSAA. And the res scaling, I believe you can only use it if you have some kind of anti-aliasing set. So you have to have MSAA or one of the other methods. And again, iRacing is really pushing MSAA. If you don't have scaling turned on, the FSR will not work. So let's restart iRacing and see what kind of frame rates we get if we get something above the 65 that we were just showing. Okay, iRacing has been restarted. As you can see, we are at AMD FSR Ultra setting, which is the highest quality, and with a 3 sharpness. So let's see what kind of frames we get off of that. Okay, 75, it's not bad. Let's so this is at their best quality, and again, there's no other cars around, or you know, eventually you're going to want to test this like in an AI race with a whole bunch of other cars and scenery and stuff like that. But 75 looks to be holding steady. Let's give it a shot real quick and see how it runs. All right, yeah, seems to be holding really steady at 74. Very nice. All right, it's dropping down to 71. Yep, the signs are definitely stuttering a little bit. Let's see how it does in this corner right here. Yep, lots of stutter. And so it's not what I want. Ultra quality, the fencing seems good. There's lots of detail in, yeah, you can kind of see little jagged edges on the chain links, diagonals. Could be rain or something on there, but it does look like it's more jagged than it was earlier. So all right, let's try the next quality. This time we have the resolution scaling set to quality. We went from ultra quality to quality and restarted iRacing. Although it's not in orange, it still requires restart. It tells you so at the bottom of the field in a little black thing. So let's see what kind of frames and quality we get with the quality setting. 74, seeing 75 a little bit more often. It's looking pretty decent. Or earlier with the ultra quality, it was pretty much stuck on 74, but now it's flickering a little bit more, so I got the same orange bar on there. Let's go take it for a spin. All right, looks like it's staying at 75. The banners are looking smooth. No issue with any of that so far. We got crowds out there. Crowds are looking smooth. Nothing's getting jagged. Let's take a look at the fencing here. The fencing actually looks a little bit better than it did earlier. It doesn't. The aliasing on the chain links is not as bad. Raindrops look good and everything. Let's go a little bit further. Yeah, banners look nice and smooth. I'm not a fan of driving in the wet, but yeah, crowds, everything looks nice. No complaints at all. Chain link looks good. No aliasing issues. All right, so yeah, this is totally drivable. I could definitely handle this. All right, so the other thing I mentioned earlier was the when I changes I made was for the Alt K button. Let's see if I can find this. All right, so when you do OK, um, changing that option to move allows you to redo everything here. And that's when you move your mirror, your main prompt, your timeline right there, your delta bar setting, your spotter message, which I usually like to have down there. I'll put my frames on the side of the mirror, and I'll put my split time at the bottom of the mirror. Voice chat goes down at the bottom. Pit lane is up here somewheres. My gearbox is down there. And oh yeah, make sure you turn on the custom positions for the HUD. And then this bar here is that shows your penalties, your off tracks and stuff like that. So I usually put that a little bit below my delta bar. And my session, I like running the session optimal sector. It's my favorite one, and it kind of gives you what you're how you're doing. And then of course I have my relative down there, and I like putting it on the left hand side because the most important part for me are the times, the relative times, so those are closest. If I put them on the other side, then the VR gets a little bit blurry because your numbers are as far away as possible. That's usually how I set my layout. The go box goes somewhere up there on the dash. Pacing right there. Where's my timer? Session timers way up there. And I'll stick that on my mirror. So this here is kind of pretty close to my usual layout for things that I like in most cars. Of course, it's going to vary a little bit. I'll move the spotter message and things like that in different places. But then again, once you have everything set, then you hit your Alt K. Yeah, this is where the manganese would be nice, where you can just flip everything up and see it. So yeah, this is kind of what it ends up looking like for when I'm racing. And I always have my FPS up there, and you can see it's still a nice steady 75 in the rain. We turn the blinkers on, and it doesn't move. So yeah, this setting is definitely nice. So next let's try to move up some of the quality settings. Say we get a little bit more detail in there, and see if we can still run the same frames or if we have to bump it down a little bit. Well, we had everything looking pretty good with a single car in the rain. Um, Frames per second were good. There was no stuttering. All the signs, billboards looked good as we were passing them. Chain link fence, the quality, anti-aliasing looked good. So now let's up the complexity a little bit by adding some AI cars. So let's go into a single race, and we're going to do. We're not going to do 10 laps. We're going to have the same BMW, same track, and I'm just going to go for regular daytime stuff. I'm not worried about the rain right now. And so let's get into this and let's see how it works. Okay, here we are. Same settings. We're still at FSR quality. All the details are the same, mirrors are the same, things like that. Oh, one of the other things I mentioned is the SSR off. This will have a big impact, and I'll show you that later on. But I usually have it off. It has some better visuals when it's raining, some reflections. But if you turn this off, it will have a huge performance impact. So I tend to leave that off. Anyways, yeah, let's jump in and see how everything looks with a bunch of race cars.
Green flag, next time by. Line up on the left side. Big road is closed.
All right, still showing 75. You see all the cars right here. Crowds look good. The fencing looks good. Yeah, check out the rails right there. Chain link fence. It's looking nice. All the stripes on the road are looking good. And we're holding a good 74, 75. No issues. Let's check out these banners. They're going by pretty smoothly. No stuttering on the banners. And let's look at some of the stuff that's far off in the distance. Alright, white stripes off in the distance look good.
Green flag, green flag.
Yeah, I'm looking for white stripes, see if there's jagged edges, how the anti-aliasing is working. I'm going to let some of these cars go by. Yeah, we're still at 74, 75. All the cars are looking good. Yep. Alright. That looks pretty decent. Can't complain about it. This is totally raceable and recordable. So these are the settings. I'd be happy racing with this, no issues. I'd have to double check to see if there's other places where we might have some issues. And I'm still going to compare whether this quality here, the FSR quality, or even the balanced, yeah, use balance if you're still having FPS problems, if your hardware can't handle it, how the quality compares with a normal high Pimax setting compared to normal medium without this. So I'm going to turn this off, and I'm going to set Pimax back to normal medium and get right back into this race, and then we can do a comparison. Let's try the AI race again. This time Pimax is set to normal field of view with medium resolution. That's the 6 million pixel resolution. This time we have the iRacing res scaling, the AMD FSR, turned off completely. Everything else is exactly the same. So let's jump in here and see what kind of frames we get when we're also rendering a whole bunch of other AI generated cars.
Green flag, next time by. Line up on the left side. Pit road is closed. Everyone's gridded.
Alright, so lots of the overlays got rearranged because we're running a different resolution. When we change to normal field of view with medium rendering, the resolutions changed somewhat. We're still doing good FPS. Chain link looks alright.
Catch the pace car.
Trying to see if there's any stuttering. Looks like there's no banners yet. Yeah, we're maintaining a good 74, 75 FPS. Everything is looking pretty nice. I don't see any jaggies. Let's see what these banners look like. Banners are scrolling across pretty smooth. Crowds in the stands are good. Man, it's a tight turn in this car.
Catch the pace car. Pace car's in. Green, green, green. Gonna go straight.
Alright, and just like last time, I'm going to let these cars go by. Everything's looking good. Fences, everything's drawing nicely. Cars are looking good.
Right side. Stay on the left. Stay on the left. Clear the right.
Yep, chain link looks perfect. This is not upscaled, of course it would be. No stuttering on the banners.
Right side. Clear the right.
Nice good detail on everything. Alright, pretty happy with that too. So yeah, both the normal medium without upscaling works fine, or the normal high with FSR upscaling seems to be working decently. Looks very similar. You can kind of see right now on some of the edges of the screen, like the gloves and things like that. You can see the jagged edges. That's from the foveated rendering that Pimax is doing. But yeah, I'll play around with these couple settings. But the other thing we need to try out is 90 frames per second setting in Pimax. So I'm going to reboot this again, kick up Pimax in 90, and we'll try this first with the medium setting and no rendering, and then we'll try it with the FSR resolution scale. We bumped up the Pimax refresh rate to 90 Hz from 75. The games, we're still running normal medium. We're going to try that first without iRacing upscaling, and then we'll see how that compares to the normal high and if it's even possible, or I assume the frame rate is going to go to crap, but we'll give this a shot. We have Pimax at 90 Hz with medium scaling, and let's go into the race. All the graphics settings are identical, haven't changed it. There's no upscaling because we're using medium Pimax resolution. So let's hop into the race and see how it performs.
Green flag, next time by. Line up on the left side.
Alright, so far I'm seeing 89
Everyone's
FPS,
gritted.
so everything's looking good. Let's see if it'll stay that way. Like I said in the past, I've had drop down into the low 80s and you start getting stuttering. Yeah, fences. Oh yeah, definitely getting some stuttering there.
Catch the pace car.
I really should have relocated my overlays too. Let's check out these banners. It's still showing 80 and 90, or 89, 90 frames per second. Alright, here's some banners. How are these being drawn?
Catch the pace car. Get ready, going green.
Seems to be holding speed pretty well.
Catch the pace car. Catch the 7 car. Pace car's in.
Crowds are looking alright.
Green flag, green flag. Gonna go stripe.
And I'm going to slow down, let the cars go by again. There we go, now we can see what things look like. Stripes look good, cars are looking good, crowds.
Right side. Clear the right. Right side. Clear the right. Right side.
See what this corner looks like.
Clear the right. Right side. Stay on the left.
Looks a
Clear
little
the
bit
right.
slower, but not too bad at all. Still raceable. And we're holding 90 frames per second. Now let some more of these cars go by.
Right side.
These banners.
Clear the
Yeah, every
right.
once in a while the frame goes down
Right
somewhat.
side. Stay on the left.
Alright, with all the
Clear the
cars,
right.
we're doing 87, 86.
Right side.
Yeah, it's
Clear
lots
the
of
right.
cars to draw. So we're starting to get into a little bit of performance issues. Yeah, low 80s. I just saw it 82. Lots of stuff to draw. Not too bad at all, but alright. Yeah, it's starting to slow down. I think we're right at the border. The weird thing is, whenever I'm running at... let me pop this back. Yeah, if you notice, the graphical indicators, the bars are all gray. For some reason, whenever Pimax is running at 90, they're gray, but at 75, they're yellow, as if they're being stressed more than they're being stressed more at 75 than they are at 90. So I'm not sure what's up with that. If anybody has an explanation or something for that, yeah, post down below. But I don't know why they're gray at 90 and really stressed orange at 75. But all right, so we got 90 there. Let's try the normal high setting and see how that works. Let's max things out. We're running at 90 on Pimax, 90 hertz. We're at normal field of view and high render quality. We're going to try the AI race, pushing out 11 million pixels with no upscaling. The FSR is turned off. Everything else is exactly the same the way it has been. So let's see what kind of resolution we get. Don't expect it to be very good, but it might surprise me.
Okay, bud. Green flag. Next time by. Line up on the left side. Pit road is closed. Everyone's gridded.
Yep. As I expected, you can see we're getting 65 FPS. It's probably going to be a stuttering mess. Yeah, you can see, I'm not sure if it's captured in the video, but yeah, the fence posts for the chain link fence is definitely, yep. Yeah, this is not raceable here at all. If you look at the trees, they're kind of stuttering like this. Alright, so 11 million pixels is definitely more than what we can handle. Yeah, this is not drivable.
Catch the pace car.
So let's do the same thing, turn on the FSR upscaling, and see if we can run 11 million pixels with the upscaling. We have Pimax set at normal field of view, high rendering. That's the 11 million pixels. We turn on the FSR quality scaling here in iRacing, and let's see if we can get close to 90 frames per second.
Okay, bud. Green flag. Next time by. Line up on the left side. Pit
Alright,
road
low
is closed.
80s.
Everyone's gridded.
Yeah, and that's what I got last time I tried this, and it still wasn't very raceable. So we'll give this a shot. At 82. Hit 90 every once in a while. We'll see how it looks when we get all the cars in there. Signs don't look too bad. There's a little bit of jerking with the trees, not as frequent. Last time it was constantly doing it. Let's see if I can drive while looking sideways so y'all can kind of maybe see some of that. How these banners look. Yeah, so-so.
Get ready. Going green. Catch the pace car.
Yeah, definitely seeing some stutters right there.
Pace car's in. Green flag, then to go straight.
Alright, I'm gonna let the cars go by. How things look off in the distance. Any aliasing on the white stripes. Get more cars in front of us. FPS is dropping a little bit.
Right side. Clear the right.
Okay, it wasn't too bad.
Right side. Clear the right.
Yep, there's
Right
some
side.
stutter right there.
Stay on the left. Clear the right. You got wheel damage. Looks like one of your wheels is out of alignment. You'll have less grip out there. Right side. Right side. Clear the right.
Chain link fences look okay. Trees and things off the distance look alright. Alright, so let's try this again with the next lower setting. Alright, another attempt with the normal field of view, high rendering by Pimax. And this time we're going to set iRacing to the balanced mode and see if we get, if we can do 90 frames per second with it like that.
Okay, bud, green flag, next time by. Line up on the left side. Pit road is closed. Everyone's gridded.
Alright, so far I'm seeing a stable 90. Screen looks alright. Fence doesn't look too bad. The signs look nice. The banners. I do see some anti-aliasing on the yellow lines. If you look right there, you kind of see it on the board on the wall, and the lines down at the bottom, the red line, and then yeah, some of the yellow lines, but it might also be due to the foveated rendering. No, that was right in my field of view right there. Yep. Frames per second look good. There's no stuttering on the banners. All the banners are looking good. Again, it's kind of hard to catch that on the drawing. I mean, on the recording. Yeah, definitely some aliasing on the corners there.
Green. Then to go straight.
Alright, let's let these guys go by. Get some car count. Still doing 8990, so it's able to do the rendering correctly, but the quality from the upscaling has gotten much worse. Yeah, lots of the lines on the road now have jagged edges. There's no stuttering or hesitation. The banners look decent. But yeah, anti-aliasing is an issue. So this is not bad if this is what you got to run in order to get your frames right. The balance mode isn't too bad, but it's not as good as some of the other ones. So I'm going to go probably stick with the normal field of view with the medium Pimax rendering and no resolution upscaling at all in iRacing. And try that one more time and see if we can then bump up some of the other settings. In IMAX, we're going to keep it at 90 Hertz. And for the rendering, I bumped it up to 80. Normally the medium is a 0.75. So I did a custom with 0.8, and since it was running fine on medium, we're going to try 0.8. and try to stick with that. And I might play around with later on, see if we can get up to 85 or 90 or something like that. But at high with a 1.0, it definitely does not render. That's way too many pixels. It can't handle 11 million, but it seems like it can handle more than 6 million. So we'll find a compromise somewhere in between. The Pimax is at normal field of view, 80% resolution. It's a custom one in between the medium and the high. In iRacing, we have no upscaling. Res scaling is completely turned off. And let's see if this might be a decent compromise.
Green flag, next time by. Line up on the left side. Pit road is closed. Everyone's gridded.
All right, I'm seeing a nice steady 89 and 90. Nope. FPS has dropped down. Let's see if that was just a fluke. Signs are looking pretty good. The walls and things look much better. There's no anti-aliasing, no jagged line issues with the red stripe on the side. So quality is much better without the FSR. Let's check out these signs over here. Yep, no stuttering, hesitation.
Get ready, go green. Catch the pace car. Pace car's in. Green, green, green. Let it go strike.
Quality's looking pretty good. Yeah, the lower render resolution in Pimax definitely looks better than upscaling it in iRacing.
Clear the right. Right side.
Alright, I think that beginning might have been a fluke. Might have been loading shaders or something. Because right now it's running at 90. And there's no major issues. No jaggeds anywhere. Everything is looking really nice. I'm going to let some of these other cars go by. Yeah, it's looking good. All my mirrors showing. Alright, frame rate, yep, pretty nice, steady 90. So the 80% rendering on Pimax looks like a good setting. If your headset still can't handle that, if your headset still can't handle the 80% rendering, then take a look.
We have to fix it. We got damage on the front end.
Yeah, if your hardware setup still can't handle the 80% rendering of Pimax and you're having a slow FPS, then look into FSR. The FSR definitely seems to be a quality compromise. With iRacing doing the upscaling, it just doesn't look as good as the non-res scaling. But if it's something you need, try it out. I'm going to do one more thing and bump up the settings here a little bit. High detail. I want the event. I like an event at high detail because I want to see RVs around the area, tents and things like that. Crowds, I don't care. Foliage, particles, all that stuff is fine. I'm still good with everything else, but I do want some high detail on the event. Cars, so-so. Let's see if this made a difference. We won't really know, but I'm going to try this for a while, and if there's any updates, we'll put them down in the description. But right now, I'm going to run with the normal field of view with the medium render, or just above medium render with an 80% render in Pimax. And if I have issues, I might have to lower that a little bit. And if things go really bad, if I have a rain race or something like that, that's when I'll look into the FSR scaling. And again, if you have a really low-end system, you might not have a choice but to use FSR scaling and just deal with jagged edges and things like that. So, yeah, I'm kind of done with this. Hope y'all enjoyed it. Hope it was useful. Let me know if there's anything else. If there's any other tips you have or suggestions on things to try. Like I said, like the channel, subscribe to it. I'll update things if there's any changes that I find to this. So, y'all have a good day. Thank you.